a bacterial disease.
Huh.
It's also known as Hansen's disease. It's a long-term infection, and it's got the list. I'm not going to try to read the names of these bacteria.
Please don't.
Yeah. So in any case, it is spread by contact.
I'll be
and
darned.
It occurs mostly with those people living in poverty. Now, of course, this is today. It's not highly contagious.
Well, then it would seem that it's contagious only by immediate
Of course.
contact with bodily
Close
fluid or
contact.
something like that.
Deposit per se, it would have to be like a common cold kind of thing. It's that cough.
In direct contact with bodily fluid. Okay.
So,
Maybe they didn't know that.
well, I'm sure they didn't know anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's so now I can pay attention again.
Yeah, it becomes no surprise.
Thank
that
you.
In the time of Jesus, they didn't have iPods where you could look up that kind of stuff.
They didn't even have something like that.
No.
I think it would be contagious because I just couldn't imagine that many people had it. There had to be spreading of something.
Well, they said it was contagious, but like
Yeah,
cold.
yeah.
Where
Well,
you cough and sneeze.
It could almost be like an AIDS virus today.
like what,
An
Fred?
AIDS virus today.
Yeah,
Back then, certain methods of contracting that disease,
yeah.
through blood or...
Well, with all this said, even though Jesus goes ahead and takes a risk in touching the person, and even though he is breaking the law, because I believe he's doing this on the Sabbath, which is a big no-no. With all this said and done, there are two things that Jesus does that proves that he was not really being reckless, that he was not really being careless about what he was doing. Because first of all, he ordered the men to keep quiet about the whole thing and don't broadcast what just happened. Now, why would Jesus do that? Well, what we assume and what Barclay tells us is that Jesus may not have wanted the Jews to jump to conclusions about his power and abilities and suddenly decide to make him some kind of big political or military leader. What Jesus wants them to recognize is his love and compassion, not a miracle, but his love for a person who has the problem. And then, on top of that, Jesus sends the man to the temple priests to make the correct offering, as well as to receive a certificate declaring him to be clean of the disease. And this involved a very detailed, prescribed ritual at the temple, all of which is carefully described in the 14th chapter of Leviticus, if you're interested in taking the time to read it all. Jesus was telling the man, do not neglect legal protocols, do not neglect what you're supposed to do, what the authorities would expect. Follow the rules. Chapter 8, verses 5 through 13. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, the centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home, paralyzed and in terrible suffering. Jesus said to him, I will go and heal him. The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was astonished and said to those following him, I tell you the truth. I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown aside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Whoa, is that going to cause a furor? And so Jesus says to the centurion, "Go, it will be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed that very hour. There's a lot hidden in here. It's worth talking about. A centurion was an officer in the Roman army, and actually the very backbone of the Roman army depended upon the quality of their centurions. You might well ask the question, well then, were they all military monsters without feelings? Were they all animals without compassion? Obviously not. You had a centurion at the cross when Jesus was crucified who recognized Jesus as the Son of God. And becomes the first Gentile convert to Christianity, who rescues the Apostle Paul from a rioting mob. In another case, a centurion foils the plans of angry Jews to murder Paul. The centurion was ordered by Felix to look after Paul. Another centurion accompanied Paul on his last journey to Rome and offered him all courtesy and respect. So they weren't all monsters at all. There is something here, though, that's even more important to note about the centurion in this passage. It was his attitude toward his servant. Concerned about his servant, though. You can argue that some of them may have been based financially on loss of manpower or whatever. But normally, slaves were just considered property. They were non-entities. They were just things. Well, it could have been his attitude of caring that was the very thing that moved Jesus to act in the first place. Love. The man also displays an attitude of extraordinary faith. The servant is at his home. Jewish law forbids a Jew from entering the home of a Gentile. A Gentile's home was unclean. If you were a Jew and you went into a Gentile's home, that made you unclean. Then you had to go to the temple and go through purification.
Might as well have been a leper.
Might as well. So Jesus kind of says, as a test to the centurion, am I to come to your home and healing? But the centurion knows the customs. He knows what's going on. And he says, no. He says, I have authority to give a command and have it obeyed. But he says, you don't need to come to my house. It's not fit for you. I can just give a command from right here and I know it will be obeyed. Now that, folks, is what you call faith. And then we have this passage that caused so much concern. The Jews, I'm sure you all know this by now, they had long dreamed of the day of the Lord, when God would break into history, and all the Jews would sit down at God's messianic banquet. It would have horrified them, to say the least, to think that Gentiles would sit there at the banquet table with them. Impossible! Impossible! But Jesus not only says that many will come from east and west to join in the feast, but even more horrible. He says to the Jews, many of you will be shut out. Well, this would be the absolute ultimate nightmare for any Jew. I mean, that would be just too much to handle. The Jews were just so completely hung up on the idea that simply by membership in the nation, by blood relationship to the pure Jewish line, they were automatically saved no matter what. Jesus is saying to them, you know what, folks, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's a matter of faith, not a matter of blood. And the Jews they were terrified by the whole idea. And Jesus says it's a matter of faith, even to the extent of healing someone from a distance. So again, like I say, if you go to look at the miracle itself and look at the meaning behind it all, there it is.
Kinda like those beliefs you had when you were a kid, all of a sudden you found out you were wrong.
Yeah, all of a sudden, and then what?
And then,
Uh-oh.
I think I was on the wrong road.
It'd be like the day I found out that Santa Claus was my dad. I thought I would die.
That was the beginning.
When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. By comparing this with the same story reported in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus accomplished this healing on the Sabbath also. He had just finished worshiping in the synagogue, and had come to this house. Oops, against the law. That's a no-no. Shame on you, Jesus. By the way, the fever that Peter's mother was suffering from is thought most likely to have been malaria. That's a bit common in that part of the world at that time. Well, what does this story tell us? About this now, massive crowds are following Jesus. Jesus is healing people left and right. Did he ever get tired? You think Jesus got physically worn down by all this? I mean, he might even have been exhausted. Do you think that performing these healings may have been the cause for his exhaustion? I mean, we know that there were times where he told the disciples, I have to get away. I have to go be by myself. I have to rest. Now, in this case here, he's in a private home. He touches this woman. There's no publicity here. There's no crowd. Nobody's watching. A simple woman alone in a small home. But still, Jesus puts forth all his power to heal, regardless of whether anyone knows about it or not. In other words, the love and power of Jesus was available to anyone in need. Jesus wasn't at his best and most amazing just in public, and then at his worst in private. He did it right all the time, no matter what.
Well, that silence was the language of God. When Jesus went to sit in silence.
Amen to that. The woman is healed, immediately attends to the needs of her guests.
Now, Brian, that was on the Sabbath, you said. If she was a good Jewish woman, why would she get up and fix them dinner?
Well, she shouldn't have, unless it was later in the day and the Sabbath was considered
Okay,
officially
because
over.
I just thought to myself, boy, you know,
She appreciated what he did.
well, I know
Yes.
that she was also knew better. I mean, I could care less, but I just think it's.
Matthew goes on to say this, when evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him. And he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and carried our diseases. Remember, Matthew is writing to a Jewish audience, and his whole purpose is to convince the Jews that Jesus is in fact the Messiah. He's constantly referring to Old Testament scripture to back him up, even as we know some of those backups were out of context. Matthew is desperately trying to convince the people that this is the Messiah, the promised one of God. All of these healings apparently continue on the Sabbath day. People who were ill or sick were brought to Jesus on a stretcher, for example, to be healed. The people doing that were in violation of the Sabbath too. Sure they were. They were carrying a burden. And you weren't supposed to carry burdens on that day. As a matter of fact, the law said, on the Sabbath you may not carry a burden weighing more than 2 dried figs. That was the way it was. I think that maybe by the time this day was over with, Jesus was pretty pooped. He'd been through a lot. Then in verses 18 through 20, we have another interesting little story that comes in here. When Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, it's one of the few places in the Holy Bible where my name appears. "Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." And then another disciple said to him, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." But Jesus told him, "Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead." What? What is this doing in the middle of the chapter on miracles? What has it got to do with anything? Well, first of all, this passage seems completely out of place. But here we have a teacher of the law. That means it was probably a scribe, okay? And this scribe seems to want to follow Jesus. And he addresses Jesus as teacher, and he's actually using the Greek word didaskalos, which is a title meaning respected rabbi. And to this scribe, Jesus was perhaps the greatest teacher he had ever met. You know, there were scribes and Pharisees that were taken to Jesus. Not many, but some were. Since Jesus stood for the destruction and putting an end to all that narrow legalism on which the entire life and existence of a scribe was built, this is amazing. This is the miracle. Jesus then goes right into this: foxes have holes and birds have nests. What is that all about? Jesus is basically saying to the scribe, whoa, stop and think for a minute. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know what you're doing? You better stop and count the cost. A number of times to wannabe followers, you know, do you really love me enough to deal with the consequences? This is going to cost you.
You're an outsider.
Hmm?
You're going to be an outsider.
Mm-hmm. You know, Jesus didn't want people joining him and following him under false pretenses. He didn't want fair weather followers when the going got tough or the squeeze was on, they'd bail out and run. And then another guy comes along, he wants to follow Jesus too. But he says, "I want to bury my father first, and then I'll come and follow you." Jesus' response seems just really harsh. It almost sounds like Jesus got really kicked off here. No compassion at all. He's let the dead bury the dead. It was, in Jewish society, it was a son's sacred duty to bury a dead parent. Listen to this. The expression, "I must bury my father," was commonly used by the Jews to mean something else. And a man is required to fulfill all of his duties to parents and relatives before he could leave them to fend for themselves. That might not happen for years, for a long time. So the comment here is properly translated as follows: "I will follow you, Jesus, someday, when my father is dead and I'm free to go." Who knows when that was going to be? So Jesus' response is very clear and understandable. He knew that if the man didn't drop things and follow him right on the spot, he probably never would. You know, we're all like that. And so this incident confronts us with an insight. There are times in life where a perfect, opportune moment occurs for us to act. And if we act at that one brief moment, it can be life-changing. But if we miss it, the moment never comes again. on to the last miracle, or the most interesting one, I think. Calming of the storm. And the wind stops, the thunder and the lightning stops, the rain stops, and everything suddenly becomes quiet and peaceful. I did that one time out on the river on my raft. Had a woman on board who was very distraught that she was getting wet. And the wind,
In the water, oh.
and the wind was blowing the spray over the raft. And she was not a very nice person. And she turned around to me in the middle of all of this and she said, "Can't you do something about this?" So I walked up on the front of the raft and I said, "Peace, be still." And I said, "It didn't work." She was very angry with me, but I thought I was being kind of funny. Anyway.
She didn't appreciate it.
No, she certainly did not. I'm going to just start on this with a couple comments out of Barclay.
Why don't you move your chair closer to the table, I'm saying?
Oh, that's okay. I like to do things the hard way.
Okay,
Exercise.
all right.
First of all, just a basic observation about the Sea of Galilee. In one sense, this is a very ordinary scene on the Sea of Galilee. The sea is small. It's only 13 miles from north to south, and it's 8 miles from east to west at its widest. The Jordan Valley makes a really deep cleft in the surface of the earth there, and the Sea of Galilee is part of that cleft. Did you know the Sea of Galilee actually lies 680 feet below sea level? That gives it an interesting climate, which is warm and gracious, but also creates some real dangers. On the west side, there are hills with valleys and gullies, and when a cold wind comes from the west, these valleys and gullies act like gigantic funnels. The wind, as it were, becomes compressed and rushes down upon the lake with savage violence and with startling suddenness, so that the calm of one moment can become the raging storm of the next. Oh, I've seen that happen down here in the canyon so many times. The storms on the Sea of Galilee combine suddenness and violence in a very unique way.
That happened to us when we were on.
It happened to you,
Yep.
that very thing.
A squall came up,
And
we
boom,
thought we were gonna get buried, and all of a sudden it dissipated before it hit the boat. Thank God.
and that's exactly what this story is talking about.
Were you on the Sea of Galilee?
Yep.
Wow.
And we had the sail up, and the guy had to pull it down, and everybody's going, he said, "I'm sorry about this," and everybody went inside, but that squall line was just like you'd see on the lake. Every once in a while you see that squall line,
Yeah,
and then it just broke up before it got to us.
yeah, I've been out on Lake Mead when it was as calm as glass.
Yeah, and then,
And in 20 minutes, you got 3-foot whitecaps. It's
Yep.
just amazing what can happen.
yeah.
So in this story, there must be something very much more than just the calming of a storm at sea. I mean, suppose that Jesus did in actual physical fact stop a raging storm on the Sea of Galilee somewhere around AD 28. That would in truth be a very astounding thing. But it would have had little to do with us. I mean, it would have been a story in an isolated situation of a wondrous thing that happened at one point in time, and that was it. It wouldn't have any relevance for us in the 20th century at all. If that is all the story means, then we might well ask this question. Why doesn't he do the same thing now? Allow those who love him nowadays to be drowned in the raging of the sea, without intervening to save them too. Is the stilling of a storm. It produces a lot of problems, which for some of us can break your heart. The real meaning of the story has to be a lot deeper. How about this? How about this? This is become calm. In the Jesus, the most terrible of tempests can be turned into peace. And comfort. In him there is safety in the storm. Look past the miracle What's the meaning behind the story? Okay. All right, we quit there today. That's
But
it.
I think